How many of you still using that phone? You know, the one that looks like a brick? You know, that you could have knocked somebody out with? I remember when my kids got me the first iPad Shuffle. It was so small, it looked like a lighter. I sent it back. I said, I can't use something this small. And now the technology we're using, some of the cameras we're using could go on the tip of a needle. Change is evident. It's all around us every single day. But the one thing I heard before, and I'll say it again, is AI won't replace humans, but it will replace humans who are not using AI. It's making us more efficient. It's helping us to do our jobs. It's helping to communicate with patients quickly. It's helping us to get our fingers on the pulse of what's happening, and especially what I just heard in the customer service environment, call centers. I love to hear those things happen. But there's one thing that you must understand. I've learned this over the 30 years I've been working with highly successful people, is that knowledge is not power. It's the application of your knowledge that's power. I used to say I hire really smart people, but they couldn't build a big practice. They couldn't communicate to people. They couldn't talk to people effectively. And you know, the one interesting thing that I heard about with the call center is that people were actually listening. See, my grandmother always would say, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as you speak. We learn a lot more by listening and focusing on somebody. You know, there was an interview done with Oprah, and they said, we love being interviewed by Oprah, and they said, what's the best thing about being interviewed by Oprah? And they said, when you're with her, you feel like you're the only person on the planet. And it's called PTC, present time consciousness. She is completely focused with you. And you can tell when someone's listening to you, you know, over the phone, can't you tell if they're listening to you, if they're paying attention, if they're eating, if they're smiling? You could feel it through the phone. And when we get in front of people to communicate, sometimes we stop those senses. But everything that we do in life in order to be successful takes what I call a commitment. And you know what a commitment is? A commitment is doing the thing that you would do long after the mood you set it in has left you. See, how many of you made a commitment on January 1st? You said, you know, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to work out, and then January 6th, you're shoving donuts in your pie hole, right? Because the world's a great starters and lousy finishers. But it's the people and the teams and the businesses that are most consistent and most deliberate that win the big game. See, there's 2 important words in business, and you know how you learn things? You learn them the hard way. You learn by failing. You know, I always say that anybody who is in the Baseball Hall of Fame struck out 70% of the time. If you have a 300 lifetime average, you're in the Hall of Fame. That means you failed 70% of the time, but if you don't get up to move, what happens? Well, a friend of mine came to me, and in 2002, I started a number of internet companies called Advantage Continuing Education Seminars. So we're in the form of legal, accounting, construction, HR, anywhere where someone has to keep their license like me. I thought, what a great business this is to be in. Well, my friend, he's a very, very successful businessman. He said, here's a great deal in the legal realm. You need to jump on it right away. I said, no, it's not going to work. Don't worry about it. It's not going to work. 2 years later, he called me up and he said, you know, you're going to learn 2 words. He said, because you just lost a couple of $1 million. Because you don't know these 2 words. Well, if someone tells you that you lost a couple of $1 million, your ears open up wide, your eyes get big, and you start to get upset with yourself. And see, those 2 words were very simple. What if? What if opens you to possibility thinking? What if this is going to work? What if this goes in the right direction? As opposed to closing down your mind about possibilities. See, what I found is that most of us are putting out fires right in front of our face. We've got a lot of firefighters in the world. See, but the opportunities are on the periphery. They're out here. But if you're so focused on putting out the fires, you miss the opportunities all around. Well, you can bet every single day I say, what if? I say it to my staff. Well, what if it works? What would it look like? How would it feel? Because I want my brain, the best computer on the planet, giving me the right answers. Because change is difficult, but people who lag behind change and don't recognize that they need to change generally fail. See, what I found is the biggest fault of every single leader that I've ever interviewed, whether it's a 4-star general or whether it's the president of a multi-billion-dollar company, is lacking self-awareness. They lack that self-awareness. See, but right now we've got something coming up. How many of you are into golf? Any golfers here? Okay, well, you're in the land of golf, and some of you might know a guy named Tiger Woods. Well, Tiger Woods is